Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I wanted to talk about natal Venus square Uranus, this very fun, exciting aspect to have in your natal chart. So, a lot of what I said in my Venus conjunct Uranus video that I did yesterday can apply here, but the interesting thing about the square between Venus and Uranus is we're a lot more uncomfortable with our own Uranian energy or our own Uranus energy, meaning like we can feel a lot of anxiety about our perceived differentness socially and also in relationships. So sometimes what will actually manifest here with the square is a person attempting to be very conservative or very normal in what they perceive as normal because of this tension. When we have a square, we actually Venus and Uranus are not getting along, right? So we have a conflict between our love nature and self-love and our, inner value and how we value ourselves as well with Uranus, which is the planet of rebellion and, being the eccentric genius. But because these are in a square, it's like we can kind of have half of the time we're, more isolating or we're more Uranian and like having, flings and off on relationships. And then, maybe some of the time we're like desperately trying to be normal or, trying to have relationships and like there's a tension here more so than with the conjunction where Venus and Uranus are united and there's no real conflict there, they're just one, right? So with the square we can see some kind of interesting manifestations of like anxiety or like nervous tension about our differentness. So it's quite likely that like we are a very individualistic person, we value freedom, but maybe in our upbringing or our lives this was not accepted or not allowed, and now we kind of struggle between like keeping the status quo and like accepting our own unique individuality. So there's a tension here. We could even see with Venus square Uranus that there's a tension between, like financially, because Venus can also represent financial things. There's a tension between, like keeping the normal job that like makes us money or doing something that allows for more soul freedom, to come through. So there's a lot of tension in the personality with Venus squaring Uranus. And, in different signs, it'll manifest differently. In mutable signs, you're probably going to get the most classic example of like, a lot of flings or off on relationships or unconventional relationships or affairs. Cheating or being cheated on. And Uranus with Venus in any aspect actually is going to have that characteristic, like classic off on quality to relationships. So you can have a bit of that going on, especially in mutable signs. In fixed signs, we're going to probably see more loyalty, but also more stubbornness and less openness to, new ideas or new relationships or new ways of being. They can be very fixed in their habit patterns and what they value, and like seeking pleasure at all costs is something we can see with a Venus square Uranus. Is kind of like sometimes it can be like they don't necessarily think about, who they're hurting or, other people's personal feelings. They just go after what they desire. And, that can be a really good quality because, maybe in society there's so much people pleasing, right? People can be really lacking in that. But of course, taken to an extreme, we have someone who is not very personal, not very personable. That's the word I'm thinking. So, they can really lack that ability to like be there with you in an empathetic or like compassionate way. These people are not super down to earth unless we have other aspects going on. In cardinal signs, it can show a lot of just like moving around and restlessness and activity, and even maybe like many different jobs or financial ways that we're making money here. But yeah, in all signs, it's going to manifest in, the same Venus Uranus way, but there's just different modifications you want to look at. Of course, the signs and house placements do matter here, but the square is, still a square, so there's still tension here and there's still uncomfortability with that Uranian energy. So this is classically, like all the books will say, like this is a divorce aspect, meaning if you have this aspect in your natal chart, you will probably get divorced. Now, I don't know if that has to be taken so literally, but there does seem to be a need, like the conjunction, for many types of relationships. So this isn't really an aspect of like wanting to be with one person for your entire life. I mean, maybe you want that, but it's not necessarily scripted for you. You might need to have a few, there's a need to learn through relationships. And like I said about the conjunction of Venus Uranus, the higher aspect of Uranus is wisdom. So through these unconventional relationships, through these off-on relationships, through these breakups, or through being cheated on or cheating on someone, you end up gaining an element of wisdom that, like, the Saturnians or the Venus Saturn people, they're not going to get that same level of experience in relationships, right? So because Uranus kind of pulls you into, many varying corners of this world as far as your relationships go, and also as far as your life goes, because Venus is also where we're seeking pleasure. So you're going to find, Venus square Uranus people have some interesting desires sometimes, and it's going to lead you to wisdom. Like I said, wisdom through experience that other people will not have. So this is like one of the benefits of this square is like I said, you go off into all directions and you've experienced some things that other people would probably, like, their jaw would drop and be completely shocked at what you've done or what you've seen, or what other people have done to you in a relationship sense. Like, there can be some crazy stuff with this square. So it's definitely a very interesting life. Now, that's one manifestation, but like I said, because we're more uncomfortable with the Uranus expression here, you could actually see like a opposite reaction with the square, where they do behave in almost a Saturnian way, where maybe the other people that come into their life, they attract all these people that are into all this wild, interesting stuff, and they revolt from it. They, like they isolate from that. So like you could actually see someone disassociate this or project this or whatever and be like, very desperately, anxiously clinging to like this identity of like, I'm a normal person in society. And yet their partner is like some sort of like rebellious or like, like taboo person or something. And that could be one manifestation of this square as well. So like, you never quite know how it's going to manifest when you have this square, because they can be so uncomfortable with who they are. Actually, that's really what it is that like I said, that Uranus expression, that rebelliousness that they have, that individualism, that independence that they have, was maybe not accepted, or they didn't accept it in themselves. And so sometimes as a reaction to this square, they, like I said, they're very anxious, they have a lot of nervous tension, they're desperately trying to be normal and fit in. And then if they're doing that, the partners that they're going to attract are going to be, just definitely outside of the box in some way. Maybe they're, Uranian, or maybe they're Aquarius, or maybe they, do something that's sort of different in society, or, maybe there's some sort of age gap in the relationship that is outrageous or scandalous, or, maybe like this is kind of classic, an aspect of like, you're dating someone who is in a relationship, or maybe you're both in a relationship, but then you end up together. So, there's just something that is sort of shocking about the love life to the world. And, the person can be very uncomfortable with that. They can't, yet they can't help it that they have these sorts of experiences. And, I think the biggest thing here is self-acceptance and acceptance. They need to bring that Uranus in, and same with Venus opposite Uranus as well, although I'll do a separate video on that. But they need to like integrate their weirdness. They need to like accept who they are, that they are different, right? They are like probably, quite a bit of a genius. We still have with this square actually a lot of charisma. And socially, we're very eclectic. We're very charismatic. We have a lot of like our aura is very enlivening. It's very attractive. So all Venus Uranus aspects are going to have this sort of attractive power to other people. Like it's a sexiness that's, it's different than a plutonic kind of sexiness, which is also very sexy, but it's like a freedom energy that they exude, like an authenticity that they exude. And like the square is no different. They have this attractive power. Like you have this ability to attract people from all walks of life. And, there's no shortage usually on lovers or people to be friends with. Now, where we can run into some trouble is staying in these relationships. So some of the reason why these are going to be off on relationships is because you can't commit, or you don't want to commit because you actually love your alone time. You actually love your freedom so much with this square that you don't want to sacrifice that for anything. And so there can be a conflict there, and there's only really a certain type of person that these people can actually be with. And it has to be someone who is maybe rather like this themselves, or, someone who's exciting, someone who's actually quite different from them, or lives a very different life. And then that's going to give the Venus square Uranus person a reason to be there, because there's something to explore. There's something that is exciting them long term, because this can be a person who's actually hard to keep enthralled by you. And so they can be a heartbreaker. There can be, a string of lovers who are just completely heartbroken and shocked and left by this person. And they can be given a reputation of kind of like the player, and we can see this in both sexes. Like, they're kind of like the perpetual bachelor in some cases, or they can definitely be kind of like the player, and not really have like sentimental feelings or ties to the past, or to past lovers or past partners. They can really withdraw their energies easily, like a clean break. Also, like I said about the conjunction, although with the square, they might even irritate others more because of their lack of ability to like really be there. They're kind of like can be here today and gone tomorrow. Now, I don't think that they have to be like this for life. If they, they can have a phase early on in their life, like in their teens or 20s, where they're kind of behaving like this, and then they can mature and realize they do want a commitment, and they do, even though they maybe haven't experienced like a commitment and what that really feels like, they start to be open to the new, then that starts to be, the new that they haven't experienced, because then they've experienced all these flings and now they want to know, now it would be exciting. Oh, maybe I do want a long-term marriage or something, right? So they can switch. Or if it's the other way, like let's say they get married really young, like just out of high school, and then, they're after a certain amount of years, then they end up needing to leave that marriage and doing this, so it can happen either way, but there likely is a need for some sort of exploration in many different types of relationships. And we could also see this sexually. Now, Venus is not as much of a physical sexual planet as Mars, but Venus shows a lot about our desires and what we find pleasurable. So it's more about like our sensuality. Now, people with Venus square Uranus might want to explore differing types of sexual experiences. So they might feel a need to do things that are sort of outrageous or outside the box or shocking to some people. So it's not uncommon for them to have some sort of interesting life experience in that area that is rather shocking to some. And if they haven't, there might be some point of their life where they do desire to explore that with this square. So yeah, it's, essentially it is a difficult square, but the tension of the square kind of forces them to, deal with this issue possibly more than even the conjunction or the other aspects. So, these people are forced to deal with their own commitment issues because they start to wonder, why do I keep doing this, or why do I keep attracting this? And it actually eventually does bring pain, the way that they act in relationships. They start to really question it, and they start to really, desire something different or desire something more. So I actually think that this square has even maybe more potential to resolve the conflict because of like the unbearable anxiety and restlessness that this square can produce. So sometimes you're going to actually get like a resolution of the issue more when you have a square in the birth chart, because it's this undeniable like frustration or restlessness. And yeah, like I said a lot about this one, it's there's a lot of nervous tension. There's a lot of which can lead to, a bit of social anxiety or anxiety and frustration in relationships, which can then lead to self-realization and realize of like, okay, like I'm taking some part in this and like I want to change that. And so you actually have quite a strong capability for change with this square, because the Uranus energy is never stagnant. So like if you decide, I want to change myself, I want to change my relationships, I want to change my self-worth, I want to change my job, you have the power there to do it. Now it just takes coming to that realization. So yeah. Also, I do want to mention about the square, there is so much creativity here. It's unbelievable like how brilliant these people can be, because Venus can represent our creativity, and with this square there's something unusual about it. Like they can create something, if they are artistic or creative, that has never been done before and is very captivating to people. So that's something that shouldn't be slept on, the creativity that is here, and like the anxiety of the square can really find a good outlet in some form of creative expression. That can be another way to actually find peace with this. And I think nobody will tell these people anything unless they want to change. So like I'm not really going to like give you guys a lot of advice, because I think that you will not accept it or take it. But I guess, you will like gradually come to the point where you desire more closeness and you desire to let someone into your world. And the type of person that will get to love you will have to be only like a real true soulmate person, because you won't accept anything less. And I think that I would just keep your heart open for that and be open to the possibility that, like, you can have love without losing anything. You can have love without losing freedom. You can have love without, needing to dim your light or your authenticity, and like maybe you were raised in a way where you thought that your weirdness would make you unloved, but it's actually the opposite when it comes to your true soulmate person. And there's a lot of excitement in being with you. It's never a dull moment. The right person will absolutely love all your quirks, and your high energy and your restlessness is like very exhilarating to be with. Like I said, yeah, never a dull moment with you guys. And that can really be a gift. Like, you can really reframe this with this square to being just such a gift. And like, you're such a blessing. You're such a breath of fresh air. And when you just accept it, you give others permission to, come into your world and just love you for you. And that's what they want to do to you when you have this square. So, yeah, I'd love to know your experience of this aspect. If you have it in your natal chart, what has it been like? I'd love to know. I'm sure that you could write a book on your many life experiences and relationship experiences. There's probably been a lot. I'd love to, hear your experience in living with this. And sending you all the love. Love you guys, and we'll talk soon. Okay, bye.